Going viral right now are a couple of clips of Russell Brand and Piers Morgan. It doesn't look great for Russell Brand in the viral clips, so I went to the video to see the whole story. Things first get awkward when they talk about a particular case involving a 16-year-old girl when Russell was 30 years old.
Legal case, but she dated you for 3 months when she was 16. She described you referring to her as the child, sending cars to collect her from school, coaching her on what to tell her parents, made allegations about the sexual interactions you had, suggesting that you forced yourself in certain ways and so on. But she's not part of the legal case, and let's be clear about that. So there's no suggestion of criminality that's been levelled at you legally. But when you hear that account, what do you feel about the fact you were nearly twice her age, she was only 16, and you're picking her up from school, all that kind of thing? What do you feel about it?
Well, I think some of those details are pretty important and relevant, and how I feel about it is, as I've said, it's not nice to know that my actions have contributed to a person suffering, and there should be there must be justice for that. The context in which those consensual encounters were happening was a sort of merry deluge of constant consensual activity that was very, very difficult to sometimes believe was happening, but one adjusts to those kind of conditions. And I would say Piers, on a personal level, yes, of course that's wrong. It's morally and spiritually wrong. It's legal. It's not a legal issue. But I don't want to try to minimise my actions in any way. I'm fully culpable and absolutely happy, not happy, but willing, of course, to deal with the consequences of my actions. Not so willing to deal with consequences of actions that were not undertaken. I think that's a really important distinction to remind you and your audience of. And also, I suppose, it seems like a deliberate removal of context not to continually cement that famous men that are single have always and typically behaved in this manner. One prays consensually, but one also suspects that there's a responsibility incumbent on people that have that power, whether that power is magnetism or whether that power is fame or whether that power is money or whatever that power is. It's not very easy to live a moral life in a culture that really openly rewarded. Were you still at the Sun when I was being Shagger of the Year? This one I was literally being given awards for it.
No, I mean,
He's referring to there, he mentioned Shagger of the Year. So this is going back 20 years ago, different era. Now, Piers himself was involved in this world, and he actually worked for The Sun around the time that they were giving out the award for Shagger of the Year, for which Russell won that award on many occasions. And Piers, earlier on in the chat, pulls up an old interview that he did with Russell 20 years ago for GQ magazine. And one of the questions that Piers asks him is, something along the lines of, does your fame allow you to be more of a predator? And Russell at the time objected to that word. But if we look at it from a more cultural lens of what this era was like, Piers was a participant in this culture, and I think it puts him in a difficult position because he's questioning Russell, and he's not quite trying to take the moral high ground, but he's not far off from it. And in fairness to Piers, he does concede that he was a part of this culture.
It's really terrible.
I'd actually left The Sun, but The Sun had an award called Shagger of the Year, and you won it a couple of times, I think.
3 times.
And it was,
some of the glory's faded.
Right, but it was
amidst the rape allegations, the Shagger of the Year titles do not seem quite as valuable, I'll have to confess.
Right, but
some of the shine's come off.
Well, the point I would make is, at the time, everyone embraced it.
Russell's face there, by the way, I'll go back to it now. Russell is used to laughing this stuff off. He's used to being able to crack a joke and everyone kind of going, you're so funny, Russell. But it's not happening. He's not quite read the room, I don't think, with this one, to put it mildly. And I think you can see that in his face there. I think it's a look of fear, anguish, pain, maybe even guilt. It could be guilt.
as good fun. You were seen as this big shagger,
Yeah.
and it was all very funny and entertaining, and nobody at the time was coming forward to say this was rape, sexual assault, or anything else. And that was the context of that time.
Yes.
Now, it obviously, there's a very different thing about it.
Well, I'll ask you something as a journalist. Also, during Me Too, no one came forward. In fact, people came forward subsequent to a very deliberate documentary. And I feel that, therefore, it's difficult to remove the documentary from the chronology because it's sort of an important artifact.
Essentially, what he's saying there is that during the Me Too movement, there was no allegations against him. The allegations against him came as a result of a documentary that was made by Channel 4.
But let me ask you, why would the state, the establishment, why would they come after you particularly? I mean, you were doing a YouTube channel, you were doing your thing, you were having opinions, but a gazillion people were doing that. This sense that you were somehow singled out, targeted deliberately, that all these allegations are only because you, Russell Brand, was saying stuff about a COVID pandemic or whatever. A lot of people think that's honestly bullshit. I was like, come on, Russell, it's not that.
But on the matter of, is there such a thing as controlling the media, and is there collateral damage in when you're controlling a narrative? Did people want a particular style of reporting and particular information to be prevalent during the pandemic period? Yes. Were voices shut down? Was information controlled? Yes. Do people get de-amplified? Yes. Do people get kicked off X the whole time?
But I would argue
imagine 30 years ago.
But I would argue a public health crisis of that magnitude globally.
You did argue it, Piers, and one of the main reasons that you remain contentious is because you advocated, you shamed people into getting vaccines, and we now know those vaccines have killed more people
you don't need to hector
than they say. I'm not hectoring you.
Because I'll tell you why. Because unlike most people,
you've repeatedly apologised.
Yes, and I've said, you know what, I believed. Now, hang on, you've raised it, so let me address it because I've heard what you said about this, and I don't blame you. I mistakenly, with hindsight, accepted the real-time scientific advice, which often changed. And in particular, when they said, if you have the vaccine against COVID, you cannot transmit the virus.
Was a lie.
I thought that was an incredibly powerful thing.
And then commenting on the substance of what they're talking about here, I actually like the contrition from Piers with the COVID thing. But what you're going to see demonstrated throughout this interview are two men that have changed their minds on things a lot. And things are somewhat convivial and agreeable between the two, but that is about to change.
Yes.
But in your case, are you anti all vaccines?
No, I don't.
Or which vaccines do you accept are good?
Calm down and slow down.
It's a serious question.
I understand it's a serious question. Of course it is, but I want you to calm down and slow down.
I'm very calm.
Because, well, then, in which case, unyoke yourself from the conditioning of the world you've found yourself in. See, when Chomsky, and there's a guy whose reputation has changed, said to Andrew Marr, in response to Andrew Marr's, well, I've not been conditioned by the BBC. They've not told me what questions I can ask and what my perspective should be. And Chomsky said to Andrew Marr, no, what I'm telling you is that if you didn't have the right opinions and the right perspectives, you wouldn't be sitting in that chair. Now, you and I have moved between many chairs.
That's an interesting point, because for those that don't know, Andrew Marr was one of BBC's prime interviewers, employees, just like Emily Maitlis, etc., John Sopel. And the second these people left the BBC, they all came out as absolute turbo leftists, which just made it clear that these institutions, as we already know, from head to toe, whether it's media, education, government, NHS, fire service, police service, councils, they're all ideologically captured. Russell was giving an example there of such an ideologically captured person.
Seen what goes on at the Daily Mirror. We know what happens. We know how people get information. And I know your position on the most public things. And I want to talk to you just as a person that survived in this world,
on vaccines.
No, look, vaccines. I'm not an expert on vaccines. I don't know anything about vaccines.
Are there any vaccines that you think are good?
It's not something I'm interested in. I don't.
But you're very interested in it. You talked about it a lot.
No, I'm interested in truth, and where truth and vaccines intersect, I'm interested in that piece.
Where vaccines and truth intersect, I'm interested in that. What he's essentially saying there is, whatever the accepted doctrine, you could even say dogma, is on vaccines, It's hit an inevitable pushback as a result of the mandates, the COVID mandates. So that's essentially what he's saying there. He's more interested. He's more interested in what happens when governments enforce a vaccine, because vaccines we don't do that in this country. That we don't compel people to take them. And traditionally, the take up for vaccines has always been very good, very high. But post COVID, that's changing because we've lost trust. Because they told us it would do something that it didn't do. Fundamentally, it's as simple as that.
But why are you avoiding my question?
Because I have a better one. What's a better one.
What's the better one?
Who believes, even for an instant, that the function of government and media is to protect us and take care of us anymore?
That is excellent from Russell, by the way. That is an excellent question. Who believes that media and government are protecting us? Who believes that anymore?
Who believes that they would put you in your homes and make you take a medication to preserve human life? I'm not talking about the wonderful staff at NHS hospitals or brilliant doctors or even magnificent scientists. I'm talking about this set of interconnected interests that are sometimes difficult to describe, visible in silhouette, evident in the Epstein files, obvious when wars happen that you don't anticipate happening but somehow seemed inevitable, and clear more than anything during the COVID period.
Had you been Prime Minister...
I get it.
Had you been Prime Minister when the COVID pandemic broke out, what would you have done?
Honestly, I think the problem really was that we just trusted the authorities blindly. I know I did.
Out of interest, you don't have to answer this question if you think it's too personal.
I know that no one has to answer any questions.
I know. So, but you've got 3 young children. Are they being vaccinated at all?
I feel like you're just sort of sniffing around for headlines, and I just don't think that's worth it.
I'm really not.
He really is.
So what do you want to know?
You took me on over vaccines, fair enough, and I've had to admit I was wrong about a key part of the vaccine programme.
But what's interesting...
But I'm only asking you simple questions like, have you vaccinated your own kids?
Do you think that in the situation I'm in, with my wife and my family, that I want to generate any more unnecessary contention?
No. And in this next part, interestingly, Russell speaks directly to the Piers Morgan viewers.
You know, hypothetical but very real audience member right now. We're on Piers Morgan's show, right? Piers is a really talented man in lots of ways. He's been inside the system. This is a person that knows Rupert Murdoch, that's been in rooms with some of the most powerful people in the world, including Donald Trump. He won the Celebrity Apprentice. He's seen things, he knows things that are powerful and profound and probably dark and probably heavy to carry in some ways. He's been in a system that many of us think is on the precipice of implosion or terrifying and mad expansion. It seems to be doing that primarily by increasing cultural fear, increasing division and dread, and then providing us with solutions, but always at a cost. You will yield a little bit more of your personal power. You'll find yourself hating people you don't know, caring about some abstract, faraway issue. And look at your own life, your London, your town, your world, your city, your family, your dog. Isn't it all deteriorating just a little bit? And what are we doing for you? The media, the independent media, are we participating in serious conversations that are going to empower you to live your life, to confront real power where it matters, to focus and to sort of manage the complexity of a migration crisis, but knowing that migrations, by definition, don't have any power. Where is the real power? Who is controlling this? These are complex, nebulous matters.
So that is peak Russell Brand there, that monologue. And, you know, the memes that were going around give the impression that this interview was just a total car crash. And we do get to the car crashy bits, but everything that he said there, I think, fully resonates. Now, it might turn out that he's a rotten scoundrel and gets found guilty. Who knows? But innocent till proven guilty, a wonderful, wonderful component of our judicial system. And that is a great monologue. Peak Brand monologue.
There's hope for all of us.
What is the... so this is...
No, yes.
No,
yes. Tried my best.
Do you accept you've been a bit of a chameleon when it comes to your position?
From Piers Morgan?
Yeah.
From Israel-Palestine, Piers Morgan?
This is incredibly hypocritical, pot kettle black stuff from Piers Morgan. No wonder Russell is as outraged as he is.
Can I go back to asking you a question about your Bible?
Yes, if you want to.
Thank you. Was that the one you took into court?
You're the very one.
Okay. What was your thinking of taking it into court? And what you were seeing, looking at some passages, what were the relevant passages for you?
All right. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. That didn't hurt, did it?
A little bit. It was this from Isaiah. And you're right, Bear did say, be chilled. Sometimes I lose the chill, man. It's this.
It's never a good sign when you can hear the noise floor.
The noise floor is basically just gallery, but remember you just said it's a hired spot. This is from Isaiah.
Mic feedback and stuff. There's a great moment there in a second where it's so David Brent, where Piers just looks into the camera. It is funny. It's gonna happen now, I think.
It says here.
It's peak Brent.
The verse that I was looking at that day was.
You get the idea. It's excruciatingly painful to watch. But at this point, we're almost towards the end of the interview before we get the next viral moment. But just to put some meat on the bone for the next viral moment that's been doing the rounds on the internet. Piers has went hard on the vaccine stuff, asking him about vaccines and if his kids have been vaccinated or not. When Piers has admitted that he regretted the way he went about forcing people and shaming people that didn't get vaccinated. Piers has changed his view on Israel, Palestine, and is it a genocide? Is it not a genocide? Etc. Etc. Now, all this has come up during the course of the interview. So the next viral moment that we see, where it just looks like Russell's unhinged, and he is a bit unhinged. He's actually recalling moments from the interview.
You're very different.
But why? Why is it so difficult to answer?
It's not difficult to answer. I'm really interested in Catholicism. Really interested.
Because you were an atheist.
I kind of love it.
You then were a Buddhist.
Don't think that's antagonistic.
No, it's not. It's factual. You were an atheist. You were a
Muslim.
That's what some people.
A Jew. A Scientologist.
That's what some people think.
Hitler. What do you think about Hitler?
That's what some
people
think.
Was he okay?
That's what some people
Should
think.
we get the jab?
Russell,
have you vaccinated your own children?
Take Bear's advice and calm down.
No, you take Bear's advice and be a good man.
I am a good man.
Be a good man.
I'm just.
And no, it costs you to be a good man.
You may not.
It might cost you everything.
You might not like.
It might cost you everything to become one, but
Russell,
you can do it.
You might not.
You can do it, Piers.
Russell, these are basic facts. You were an atheist. You then became a Buddhist.
No,
now you're a Christian.
Good. They're not basic facts. They're information being tailored and collated.
Is it not true?
Yeah. You are attempting to create, using a collage of language.
But you're the one who told us. You were. You told us you were an atheist.
Israel's got the right to protect itself.
Yeah.
This is a genocide. Don't take that COVID shot. Take the COVID shot. No. Listen.
But I'm happy to talk about that. You're not.
I'm happy to talk about anything, but I would prefer to talk about...
I only know you're an atheist because you told me.
But I prefer to talk about something, Piers.
Fine.
Something.
We're talking about your profound belief in God. And as a Christian...
No, we're not talking about my profound belief in God. We're talking about the actuality of God. And we're talking about the fact that you have been doing water carrying for Satan. That's what we're talking about, Piers.
Who's Satan?
Water carrying. The fallenness in this world.
Who's
the fallenness.
I've been carrying water for Satan.
Satan is the epitomised...
There's the phrase, they know where the bodies are buried. I think Russell knows some things about Piers. Or Russell knows that Piers knows some things about other celebrities that he's keeping quiet about. Let's not forget as well, Piers Morgan was the editor of the Daily Mirror, which was a newspaper that was shut down over 20 years ago because it was hacking people's phones for information. A 2003 UK High Court ruling found that Piers Morgan knew about and was involved in widespread phone hacking while editor of the Daily Mirror. While a judge concluded he was involved, Morgan consistently denied hacking and phone himself, blah, blah, blah. There was compelling evidence that editors, including Morgan, knew of phone hacking, voicemail interception, and benefited from it. So, look, Piers has done some pretty shady things. I think throughout the whole of this interview, Piers has had a kind of nervous look on his face. He's not his usual smackdown self. And then Russell, throughout most of the interview, has been himself, and towards the end did go a little bit unhinged. But the viral clips were not representative of the actual reality of the interview. But let me know what you think. Maybe you disagree with me and everything that I have said. But still, subscribe and like and share and all that good stuff.